Hello hockey fans, Oddman Rush here and welcome back to another episode of Whatever Happened To, the series where we take a where are they now look at players who found success in the National Hockey League but are no longer permanent fixtures in the league either due to controversy, poor play or simply rotten luck. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at a 15-year veteran of the NHL and a former league MVP, as we ask, whatever happened to Carey Price? The 5th overall pick of the 2005 NHL draft by the Montreal Canadiens, Carey Price would return to the WHL's Tri-City Americans shortly after his selection, the team he had played his prior 2 seasons with before the draft. From there, the Canadian netminder would spend the next 2 years with the Americans, post a 51, 38 and 7 record in 101 regular season games, and earn his fair share of awards too, including the 2007 Dell Wilson Trophy as WHL Netminder of the Year, the CHL's Goalie of the Year, as well as a place on the WHL's first All-Star team too. Oh, and he also earned several accolades at the 2007 World Junior Championships as well, just in case his domestic season wasn't impressive enough for you. Once the 06-07 WHL season concluded, and having posted a 30, 13 and 1 record in 41 games that year, Price would graduate from major juniors and finally turn pro, as he signed a 3-year entry-level contract with the Habs on April 10, 2007. Shortly after signing this deal, Price would join Montreal's AHL affiliate, the Hamilton Bulldogs, where he would play a pair of regular season games before earning Hamilton's starting spot during the 2007 Calder Cup playoffs. In fact, Price would play so well that he would lead Hamilton to the promised land, as his 15 and 6 record, his 2.06 goals against average, and his .936 save percentage in 22 games would help the Bulldogs defeat the Hershey Bears in the finals to clinch the 2007 Calder Cup. So not only had he dominated major juniors and left his mark on the international stage, Carey Price had just lifted his first championship just a few months after turning pro. Talk about a season to remember, eh folks? The 07-08 season saw Price join the Canadiens for training camp and looked to make a strong first impression during his opening stint with the team. Thanks to his performance at camp and his impressive play during preseason, the former 5th overall pick would receive the greatest news of his career. He had earned a spot on the Habs opening night roster, and he would soon be making his NHL debut. From there, Price would join the Habs for the very first time, and though he would play 10 games with Hamilton in January 2008, the Canadian netminder would end up spending the rest of the season with the Habs, where he registered an impressive 24, 12 and 3 record, a 2.56 goals against average, and a .920 save percentage in 41 regular season games. Not only would he finish 4th in voting for Rookie of the Year and be named to the NHL's All-Rookie team, this performance would help Montreal punch their ticket to the playoffs, where Price registered a 5 and 6 record, a 2.78 goals against average, and a .901 save percentage, as the Habs were eliminated in the second round by the Philadelphia Flyers. The next 2 years of Price's career would see the netminder look to keep up the good work for the Canadiens, and though he would take a slight step backwards compared to his rookie year prior, he would continue to register respectable numbers during his young NHL career. After all, the former 5th overall pick would post a 23, 16 and 10 record, a 2.83 goals against average, and a .905 save percentage in 52 games during the 08-09 season, before registering a 13, 20 and 5 record, a 2.77 goals against average, and a .912 save percentage in 41 games during the following 09-10 season. Now sure, winning just 36 of 93 contests over a 2-year span isn't exactly great, but given that Montreal were a middle-of-the-pack team during each of these seasons, and given that Price had registered decent individual numbers in spite of his overall record, perhaps his goaltending wasn't the biggest issue on this team. despite this notable regression in his numbers, Price's play was still good enough to help Montreal reach the postseason during each of these years. And while the Habs would make it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2010, Price played just 4 games during this run before his starting job was stolen by the team's surprising new star, Yaroslav Halak. Once his entry-level contract had expired, and having just lost the starting job to his backup netminder, Montreal had a pretty big decision to make. Do they re-sign their younger, more consistent netminder in Carey Price, or do they lock up their recent playoff hero in Yaroslav Halak? Well, after the Habs dealt Halak to the St. Louis Blues on June 17, 2010, the team had clearly made their decision, as on September 3, 2010, the Habs signed Price to a 2-year, $5.5 million contract worth an average annual value of $2.75 million a season. So thanks to his strong rookie season, and thanks to his respectable numbers in the years that followed, Price would be sticking around in Montreal for the foreseeable future. So, did the Habs make the right choice? Yes. Yes, they did. The next 2 years of Price's career would see the goalie bounce back from his tough years prior and re-establish himself as his team's starting netminder. After all, the Canadian goaltender would register a 38, 28 and 6 record, a 2.35 goals against average and a .923 save percentage in 72 games during the 10-11 season, before notching a 26, 28 and 11 record, a 2.43 goals against average and a .916 save percentage in 65 games during the following 11-12 season. Not exactly the greatest record during that second year, but given that he had registered solid individual stats, Carey Price definitely wasn't the problem there. Unfortunately for both Price and the Canadians though, this performance wouldn't result in any playoff success, as the Habs reached the postseason just once during this span, where they were knocked out in the first round by the eventual Cup champion Boston Bruins. At least they lost to the best, right guys? Once his 2-year contract had expired, and having cemented his place as the go-to guy for the Habs, Montreal were ready to lock Price up long-term, as on July 2nd, 2012, the Canadians signed Price to a 6-year, $39 million contract extension worth $6.5 million a season. So thanks to his improved play in recent seasons, and thanks to him clearly taking the next step in his game, Price had just put pen to paper on a pretty hefty NHL contract. With him turning 25 years old that offseason, and with him entering his 6th year in the league, the Canadian netminder was eager to prove that he was worth every penny of his shiny new deal. But first, there was a lockout! During the 2012 lockout, many NHL players would take their talents across the pond and ply their trade in Europe to begin the season. Price, however, wasn't one of those players, as he elected to remain in North America and forego signing with another team. Now, while some people may have questioned Price's decision, if I'm the Habs, I'm very happy with the choice that Price made. After all, the team had just locked him up for the next half a decade. The last thing they wanted was their $6 million man getting injured while playing for another team on the other side of the world, right? Once the lockout concluded and the NHL resumed play, Price would quickly return to the Habs and pick up right where he left off. For example, the former 5th overall pick would register a 21, 13 and 4 record, a 2.59 goals against average and a .905 save percentage in 39 games during the lockout-shortened 12-13 season, before posting a 34, 20 and 5 record, a 2.32 goals against average and a .927 save percentage in 59 games during the following 13-14 season. These numbers would help Montreal clinch a postseason berth during each of these years, and they would even reach the Eastern Conference Finals in 2014, but the Habs would eventually fall in the penultimate round to the New York Rangers. That said, this playoff run would leave quite the bitter taste in Habs fans' mouths, as Price, who had posted an impressive 8-4 record, a 2.35 goals against average and a .919 save percentage in 12 games that postseason, was injured in Game 1 of the conference finals following a collision with Rangers forward Chris Kreider during the second period of that contest, an injury that ultimately sidelined Price for the rest of the series. Now, given that Price had been injured during the previous postseason, and given just how vital his netminding had been to the Habs' 2014 run, I can certainly understand why both the players and the fans were pretty frustrated with this result. However, Montreal defenseman Alexei Emelin's stick clearly tripped Kreider on the way to the net, so if you want to blame anyone for all this, blame Alexei Emelin. Oh, and also, this incident was nearly 10 years ago now. It's time to forgive and forget, guys. Despite this disappointing end to his postseason run, Price had finally shown that he could get the job done during the playoffs, and he could lead his team to the later rounds of the postseason. Now, if you thought that his play was impressive already, prepare to be amazed, folks, as Price was about to produce a performance for the ages. The 14-15 NHL season saw Price suit up with the Habs for his 8th year with the team and somehow take his game to a completely unprecedented level. Thanks to his steady presence in the Habs net, and thanks to his lights-out play between the pipes, the Canadian netminder finished the year with an astonishing 44, 16 and 6 record, a 1.96 goals against average, and a .933 save percentage in 66 regular season games. Not only would he produce the greatest statistics of his entire pro career and earn his 4th trip to the NHL All-Star Game, Price would also get his hands on some of the greatest individual awards the league has to offer, as he won the 2015 Vezina Trophy as the league's best goaltender, the Ted Lindsay Award for the league's most valuable player as voted for by the players, as well as the Hart Memorial Trophy for league MVP. So thanks to his dominant play all season long, Carey Price had just been crowned the undisputed MVP of the 14-15 NHL season, becoming just the 7th goalie in league history to receive this honour. Not bad, Price. Not bad at all. While this historic performance would help the Canadians punch their ticket to the playoffs, Price would produce a .500 record in 12 games as Montreal were knocked out in the second round by the Tampa Bay Lightning. Not the ending that Price or the Habs were hoping for, but a successful season for him nonetheless. The next 3 years of Price's career would see the netminder attempt to keep up the good work while facing his fair share of struggles with the injury bug. After all, the former 5th overall pick would play just 12 games during the 15-16 season due to a knee injury. He would register a 37, 20 and 5 record, a 2.23 goals against average, and a .923 save percentage in 62 games during the following 16-17 season, before producing a rather disappointing 16, 26 and 7 record, a 3.11 goals against average, and a .900 save percentage in a concussion-limiting 49 games during the 17-18 season. He also played 6 playoff games during this span, but the Habs reached the postseason just once and were knocked out in the first round, so the Canadians clearly needed a healthy Price between the pipes. Despite suffering several injuries during this period, Price would further cement his place in Habs franchise history, as on April 3, 2018, the netminder made his 557th career start during a game against the Winnipeg Jets, surpassing the previous Canadiens record set by team legend Jacques Plante. Oh, and he would also receive one hell of a new contract too, as several months before the final year of his deal, on July 2, 2017, Montreal signed Price to an astonishing 8-year, $84 million contract extension worth a whopping $10.5 million a season. So thanks to his impressive track record with the Habs, and thanks to his decorated career in the NHL, Carey Price would become the highest paid goaltender the league has ever seen in just a year's time. Talk about making history, eh, folks? The next 2 years of Price's career would see the netminder continue to suit up for the Habs and look to prove that he was worth every penny of his shiny new mega deal. While the netminder would stay much healthier than years past, and though his numbers would take a notable dip from his previous career highs, the Canadian goaltender would remain a star between the pipes, as he posted a 35, 24 and 6 record, a 2.49 goals against average, and a .918 save percentage in 66 games during the 18-19 season, before registering a 27, 25 and 6 record, a .279 goals against average, and a .909 save percentage in 58 games during the following 1920 season, before the schedule was ended prematurely due to the pandemic. That said, Price would rejoin the Canadiens during the 2020 playoff bubble, where the netminder's 5-5 record, his 1.78 goals against average, and his .936 save percentage in 10 games would almost single-handedly help the bottom-seeded Habs upset the Pittsburgh Penguins in the qualifying round before Montreal were eventually eliminated in the first round by the Philadelphia Flyers. Not only would Price remain the go-to guy for Montreal during this time, he would further cement his place in Habs history, as on March 12, 2019, Price would register his 315th career win, surpassing the Canadiens' previous franchise record set once again by Jacques Plante, becoming the all-time winningest goaltender of the oldest and most decorated franchise in NHL history. Sounds like a pretty great achievement to me, folks. So thanks to his continued consistency in the crease, and thanks to his postseason performance in the bubble, Price had earned another place in the history books, and he had proven to be a key playoff performer once again. Though he would turn 34 years old during the off-season, and though it seemed as if his best days were already behind him, the old dog still had a few tricks up his sleeve. The 2021 NHL season saw Price return for his 14th year with the Habs and look to further cement his legacy as a Montreal Canadiens legend. Unfortunately for both the player and his organisation, things wouldn't get off to the best start. Though he would play 25 games for the Habs in the league's newly formed Canadian division, and though he would post a rather mediocre 12-7-5 record, a 2.64 goals against average, and a .901 save percentage during that span, the former 5th overall pick would be sidelined with a concussion in early April 2021, and he would miss the final 5 weeks of the already shortened season as a result. After finally recovering from his concussion in mid-May 2021, and after playing a single game with Montreal's AHL affiliate the Laval Rocket in preparation for his return, Price would rejoin the Habs for the 2021 Stanley Cup playoffs, as Montreal had secured the final postseason berth for the second year in a row. From there, Price would retake his rightful place as Montreal's starting netminder, and he would help his team go on one hell of a postseason run. Thanks to his 13-9 record, his 2.28 goals against average, and his .924 save percentage in 22 playoff games, Price would play an integral role in helping Montreal overcome a 3-1 deficit against the Toronto Maple Leafs in round 1, sweep the Winnipeg Jets in round 2, and eliminate the Vegas Golden Knights in the conference finals to guide the Habs all the way to the Stanley Cup finals. Though Price would reach this milestone for the first time in his career, and though he would guide Montreal to their first finals appearance since 1993, neither the player nor the team would get their storybook ending, as the Canadiens were eventually defeated by the defending Cup champions, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Ooh, so close yet so far. Despite falling at the final hurdle, and despite narrowly missing out on the ever-elusive Stanley Cup, Price had once again shown that he could rise to the occasion come playoff time, and he had proven that he was still the undisputed MVP of the Montreal Canadiens roster. Though he was determined to run it back and finally reach the promised land, Price was about to embark on quite the roller coaster ride. As the 2021 off-season arrived and the NHL introduced its 32nd team, the Seattle Kraken hosted its expansion draft on July 21st, 2021. Now, since each existing NHL team could protect one goaltender at the event, and since Price had a no-movement clause as part of his contract, Montreal would have to automatically protect Price and leave backup netminder Jake Allen exposed. However, just before the draft took place, it was revealed that Price had agreed to waive his no-movement clause and allow himself to be left exposed at the expansion draft instead. While this might seem like a strange decision on the surface, Price had agreed to this move in the hopes that his contract's yearly salary and his lengthy remaining term would deter Seattle from selecting him, while also allowing Montreal to protect Jake Allen instead, whom had been a reliable netminder for the Habs in Price's absence last season. Thankfully for both Price and the Canadiens, this gamble would pay off, as the Kraken drafted Cale Fleury from Montreal instead. Nice work, Habs. Nice work indeed. Though their plan had worked and Montreal still had their star netminder, Price was about to face his fair share of struggles, both on and off the ice. Midway through the off-season in July of 2021, it was revealed that Carey Price had undergone surgery on his knee and he would be sidelined for 10 to 12 weeks as a result. Though he was expected to spend the rest of the off-season recovering, and he would be ready to go once the 21-22 season finally began, Price would soon drop one hell of a bombshell. Just before the season started, on October 7th, 2021, it was announced that Price would be entering the NHL's Player Assistance Program, where he would remain for a little over a month until November 9th. Upon his return to the Canadiens, Price would release a statement via Instagram explaining that he had spent his leave of absence at a residential treatment centre due to his struggles with substance abuse, and that these issues had arisen from years of neglecting his mental health. It takes a lot for a person to actually admit that they have a problem, but it takes so much more strength for them to go and seek help to try and solve their issues. It just goes to show you that no matter how famous or successful you are, everyone has their demons, right? Following his return to the Habs in early November, Price would continue rehabbing his injured knee and work on getting himself back into game shape. Though he had originally expected to be healthy once the 21-22 season began, the 34-year-old would suffer numerous setbacks during his recovery, and the rehab process would last months longer than initially expected. With Price unable to get back onto the ice, and with Montreal struggling mightily in his absence, both the player and his team would finally receive some good news, as in early April 2022, it was announced that Price would be travelling with the Habs during a late-season road trip. Though he wouldn't play in either of the upcoming contests, and though fans began to wonder the significance of this news, Price would soon provide an answer, as on April 15, 2022, it was announced that Price would be suiting up against the New York Islanders, and he would be serving as the team's starting netminder that night. So after last playing for the Habs during the Stanley Cup Finals, and having suffered several setbacks in the many months that followed, Carey Price had made his triumphant return to the Montreal Canadiens roster, and he had taken his rightful place between the pipes. Having rejoined the Habs for their 75th game of the year, Price would spend the final few weeks of the 21-22 season with the Canadiens, where he would end up playing 5 games for the team and post a 1-4-0 record, a 3.63 goals against average, and a .878 save percentage during that span. Not his finest work by any means, but given all the difficulties that he had faced that season alone, it's a miracle that Price even made it back into the lineup, let alone produce the numbers that he did. Oh, and the Habs were also the worst team in the league that year as well, so that definitely didn't help things either, you know. Despite these uncharacteristic numbers late in the year, Price's difficult journey throughout the season and his return to the league after overcoming adversity proved to be quite the inspiration, as he received the 2022 Bill Masterton Trophy, given to the player who best exemplifies perseverance, sportsmanship and dedication to hockey. Sounds like a pretty worthy winner if you ask me, folks. Once the season concluded and the 2022 off-season began, it was hoped that Price would build off his strong finish and be ready to go once the 22-23 season finally arrived. However, these hopes would soon be dashed, as on August 18, 2022, Habs general manager Kent Hughes revealed that it was highly unlikely Price would play during the 22-23 season due to his ongoing ailments, and that any possibility of him doing so would require additional surgeries, procedures that had limited chances of success and could severely impact his quality of life should they go wrong. With the 22-23 season coming and going, and with Price having sat on the long-term injured reserve list all year, his NHL career seemed all but over, and it appeared that Price had unofficially retired from the league. This speculation would soon be confirmed in April of 2023, as Carey's wife Angela revealed that the couple were moving to British Columbia, the province where Carey had grown up as a kid and where the couple had met during the goalie's days in the WHL. So after being drafted by the organization 18 years prior, after spending a decade and a half with the Canadiens, and after producing a legendary career with the franchise, Price was leaving the only NHL team he had ever known, and he was heading home to BC. To this day, Carey Price is back in British Columbia, where he has begun his unofficial retirement from the league. Since he is physically unable to play pro hockey anymore, and since he's been all but forced to hang up his skates, it seems that Price is using this time as an opportunity to spend some hard-earned moments with his loved ones while he figures out what's next for his career. And understandably so, given the circumstances. After all, the guy spent over a decade and a half playing on the other side of the country and was forced to call it a day on his career prematurely. I certainly don't blame him for taking some time to reset given everything that he's gone through, you know. That said, since he has another 2 years on his contract with Montreal after the current season ends, don't expect Price to make any formal announcement surrounding his retirement anytime soon. I mean, the guy stood on his head for the Habs for his entire NHL career, and he still has over $20 million left to cash in from his deal. He's earned every penny and then some. But regardless of what he does next, there's no denying that Carey Price produced an absolutely legendary NHL career. After all, in 712 regular season games, Price posted a 361, 261 and 79 record, a 2.51 career goals against average, and a .917 career save percentage, as well as a 43 and 45 record, a 2.39 career goals against average, and a .919 career save percentage in 92 playoff games too. Add to that him playing a decade and a half in the best league in the world, his numerous individual awards at both the domestic and international stages, his various franchise records with the league's most storied organisation, and his $105 million of estimated career earnings at the time of this recording, and Carey Price shall go down in history as one of the best goalies of his generation and one of the greatest netminders the league has ever seen. Not bad for a kid from Vancouver, eh, folks? And there you go. That's what happened to Carey Price. What do you guys think about Price's NHL career? Was it good? Bad? Or do you wish that he was still playing in the league to this very day? I know I do. Also, do you have another player that you would like me to look at as part of this series? Do let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I do hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye. A big thank you to Bexy93, Burned Retinas, Drew Fawcett, Houston NG, Raquel and Worthless Pieces for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.